Hi everyone. So I just want to get this last section done for you today. I think this is the last section for the unit, and I think you'll find it to be fairly straightforward. This one's all about translating sine and cosine. If you are familiar with the basic graphs and understand them fairly well, I think this will be fairly straightforward for you. So basically what we are doing is we are taking the basic sine and cosine functions and expanding them a bit. And we're adding two shift terms to them, or the translation terms. And so we're going to have this h term right here and this k term right here. And they function exactly like all the other h and k terms we've done throughout the year. So nothing new here. So as a quick review, the a term, well, that is the absolute value of it's going to be the amplitude. If it's a negative term, if a is negative, that just means your graph is reflected over the x-axis. 2 pi over b is going to be your period. And now we have our two new terms. Here we call h, it's referred to as the phase shift in the textbook. But really, I mean, it's just the same left and right shift we've always been doing. K, again, is the vertical shift. All right, up, down. And if you do the line called y equals k, it's called the I spelled it wrong. Midline. Basically, that's just a line that goes right through the middle of the graph. So it basically cuts right through the graph. So you have, half of it above, half of it below. And you'll see examples of that in the text. It's not that critical for what we're doing today, though. So a couple of quick examples here. Then we'll graph some. Let's take a look at 23 and 25 in the text. Okay. In 23 and 25, we are describing any phase shift and vertical shift in the graph. Again, phase shift is just left and right shifts. Keeping it easy, let's look at that 4. The 4 is A, so this graph will have an amplitude of 4. You don't have to worry about that. B is a 1, so that means your period is 2 pi. But what the question is asking for is the shifts. So you see that 1 right there. So again, be careful. Notice that, again, just like always before, it's a minus h. So actually, h is a negative 1 right there. So that right there is going to be a shift to the left. Okay, so that's a shift to the left. So it's a phase shift left 1. And looking at the other part of it, you have a minus 2 right here. And for that one, for that minus 2, well, that's the vertical shift, right? So that's going to be down 2. Down 2. Okay. 25, same deal as before. Here, A is 1, B is 1, so amplitude is 1, period is 2 pi. But again, what we're focusing on are our shifts. So we're looking right here. We have a x minus 3. That means that's a right 3 shift, phase shift to be specific. That's right 3. And that plus 2 right here, well, it's up 2. So nothing really new here. Okay. So actually, let's practice a couple graphs. So I'm going to look at 31 and 32. So graphing these guys. I'm just going to get all of my various pieces first, okay? I'm going to graph it like normal, and this is my suggestion for you, is ignore the shifts at first, okay? Graph it just lightly, just without the shifts, and then shift them with the shifts. And so I want to get the basic graph first without the h and the k. So looking at this one, my A is 1, which means I have an amplitude of 1. B is equal to, B is equal to 2. So my period is 2 pi over B. or 2 pi over 2, or pi. All right, so this graph has to go from, if you look at the directions, graph each function in the interval from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so that means I have to go out to 2 pi at least. All right, so when I'm graphing here, so I'm going to move 2 pi out there. So since your period is pi, that means I'm going to have 2 complete cycles in this graph. So keep that in mind when you're setting it up. So I'm just going to segment the graph. So here I got pi, here I got pi over 2, here I got 3 pi over 2. Great. All right. Amplitude is 1. So I'm going to put a 1 right there. -1 right there. And then, let's see here. I'm going to graph the basic graph. Actually, I'm going to make that a little tighter on the 1. And you'll see why in a second. I'm going to put it right about, let's see, right about there. 1, -1. Okay. All right, so basic graph now. Now I'm going to deal with the H and the K. And I'm going to do this, I'll do this one in blue. So, doing a cosine graph, which means I start at 1. And this one I have a period of 2. So I'm going to have 1 complete cycle from 0 to pi. So basically this graph's going to go like this. There's going to be another point there, another point there, another point there, and another point there. Okay, right? Because that's the basic kind of cosine shape. Like that. And I'm going to do one more. Maybe point there, point there, point there. And if you need more help on this, doing this part right here, I suggest you go back to the sine and cosine videos where I'll spend more time talking about how I'm doing this, okay? But there, right there is the basic graph, okay? Now we got to take into account our shifts, okay? So looking at our shifts here, and I'll switch to green for this, I have plus pi over 2. I have a plus pi over 2. That means I'm going to be going left pi over 2. That's not too difficult because my graph is in pi over 2, is in pi, so that's not too hard. And I'm going down 2. Okay. So now I'm going to need to shift my graph back. So I need to go to the negative pi over 2. And I'm going shifting down 2, so I need to add a little bit down here too. And basically what I need to do is take each of my points that I did before and shift them to the left pi over 2. Okay, to the left pi over 2 and down 2. Let's just start off in blue. And so just do it point by point. And once you get it started, it's easy to continue. This graph just keeps on repeating itself. So we'll start with this first point right here, right? So if I go left pi over 2, I go to there, and then I go down 2. So the point will go right there. There's a dot right there. And you can do the same for all of the dots. So if I, at this point right here, go left pi over 2, which is right there, go down 2. So that's a dot right there. Okay, I think you're getting the, you might be getting the idea already. I'm going to start going faster on this. So this point right here, go left pi over 2, down 2. So we got a point right there. So put a point right there. And basically here, you can just continue the pattern, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the next point will be there. We got another point right there. That's going to start going back down again, back down, back up again, back down, and back down. You want to go all the way from 0 to 2 pi at least. So, and it's going to look like that right there. Okay. Let's do one more example. So number 32 right here. So for this one, just quickly, let's see, A is 1/2. B is 2, which again means my period is same as before, 2 pi. I'm sorry, pi. So I'm going to have 2 cycles going from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, I'm going to segment it again. There's pi over 2. And there's 3 pi over 2. Okay, and so I'm going to draw the basic graph. Oh, amplitude is 1/2, so I'll put that there. I'm going to put, so put 1 right there. Just 1. Maybe -1 right there. And again, I'll stint this out a little bit. We're shifting this guy down again. And so we're going to have a -2 right there. Okay, so looking at this one, drawing the basic graph, let's see here. It's a sine graph, which means I start at 0. Okay, so first dot is right there. And this one, amplitude is 1/2, so it's only going to go up to 1/2 right there. And then it go back down to pi over 2. Down, up, that's 1 cycle, and repeat. Up, down, down, up. And I'll sketch it in. And again, you can refer to the, oops, a little messy. You can refer to the Sine video if you need more help on this, exactly. Okay, now my shift, and this is an easy one, because if I look at this graph, there's no horizontal shift. It's just 2x. So all I got to do is shift this guy down, down, 1. So all I do, just move all my points down 1. And it's easy as that. So it's going to remain in parallel, basically, with the other graph. Just moving all these points down 1. And I'm doing this quickly, but I think you get the idea. Okay, and sketch it on in. All right, and that's it, really. So basically, sketch the original graph without the shifts and just shift it. Fairly straightforward, but as always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So have a great day, guys. Thank you.